Poor Arnie, said Madame Jean as he walked away. When Arnie got to Bill and Dottie's bakery, Bill said, "You missed your afternoon school snack yesterday, Arnie. How about a donut?" "No thanks, I'm not very hungry," said Arnie. "Today is Grandparents' Day at school, and I don't have anyone to bring." "Poor little guy," Bill whispered to Dottie. On his way into school, Arnie saw Mrs. Childs. "Why, Arnie, where are your neighbors?" she asked him. "They're out of town," he said, "so now I don't have anyone to come as my grandparents." When Arnie got to class, there were grandparents everywhere. "Arnie, where are your grandparents?" whispered Harriet. All at once, there was a knock at the door. Who that could be? It was Bill and Dottie. "Hiya, grandson," said Dottie. "How about some donuts for everyone?" asked Bill. Then there was another knock. And in came Madame Jean. "Bonjour, Arnie. It is I, your grandmamma." Before Arnie could say anything, in came Mrs. Childs, Coach Ed, and Jerry. "We heard our grandson needed us," said Jerry. Harriet nudged Arnie. "So what do you think of Grandparents' Day now?" she asked him. Arnie looked around the classroom. "I never knew a kid could have so many people care about him," he said. "Hooray for Grandparents' Day." So Arnie finally did have grandparents at his Grandparents' Day. That must have made him very happy, and it must have made him feel very special. You guys like this book? Now, would you like to hear about what it might have been like when I was a kid your age? Okay. When I was asked to do this, I couldn't remember everything that what it was like when I was your age, but I went on my computer and I looked up the year 1955. And a whole bunch of things came up. In 1955, Disneyland opened in California. You guys know that? I was 10 years old when Disneyland opened in California. And the Barbie doll was invented in 1955. How many of you have Barbie dolls? I guess. I think all you girls have Barbie dolls. And guess what else was invented in 1955? Legos. Plastic Legos. Yeah. There were actually they were building blocks that were made of wood that looked like Legos, but they never had plastic ones. But in 1955, the plastic ones came out. And how many guys have, you people, everybody, does everybody have Legos? Now they have the girl Legos too, right? Everyone has Legos.
It's one of our favorite things in here to do on indoor recess. We have
That's right,
Legos.
yes. And what I did was I wrote down, I couldn't remember everything that happened in 1955, but there were 2 baby boys born in 1955 that ended up being very famous. One of them was Steve Jobs, the Apple founder, Apple computer founder. He was born in 1955. And Bill Gates, the Microsoft founder, was also born in 1955. So have you You kids ever heard of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs? No, Steve Jobs, he's the one that invented the Apple computer. Oh, yeah?
May your attention, please. Sorry for the interruption.
Now, how about...
Ms. Schultz, please call the office. Ms. Schultz, please call the office. Thank you.
How about the Guinness's Book of Records? Has anybody ever read that book? They have books of, that was in 1955, the first Guinness's Book of Records was published. And another thing, who knows who Elvis Presley was? He became famous in 1955. And another thing, 1955 was a very busy year. The 1950s, color TV came out for sale to the public. Before that, a lot of people had TVs before, but they were only black and white TVs. But in 1955, people started buying color TVs. And has anyone ever been to McDonald's? Okay. McDonald's was the first one was built in 1955. A lot of cool things happened when I was 10 years old. Now, how about Coca-Cola? Anybody? Did you ever drink Coca-Cola out of a can? Okay. A can, the Coca-Cola was first published marketed in cans in 1955. Before that, it was always in a glass bottle. And let's see. Oh, the Frisbee was invented in 1950. And Play-Doh. Do you know how Play-Doh was invented? Okay, you tell me. Well, there was these people that made a substance that that cleaned wallpaper, and a toy maker said to them, "Can you make something that would be good for kids to model things out of?" And they used that same substance, they put color in it, and they made Play-Doh. So that's how Play-Doh was invented, and that was in 1955. And how about Mr. Potato Head? That was in 1955. And Matchbox cars, they made the first Matchbox cars in 1955. And I said the Barbie doll, but the Barbie doll didn't come out until 1959. So I was a little bit older whenever that came out. I was 9 years old when that came out. And cost of living. The minimum wage was $1 an hour, so someone worked all day, 8 hours a day, and they only made $8. That was the minimum wage. The average cost of a new car was $1,700. You have to pay that much for a computer now. So you can buy a car for that much. And in 1955, seat belts, new cars had to be, the law came into effect that new cars had to have seat belts. Before that, there were no seat belts. Now it's a law that you have to have a seat belt. And gasoline was 25 cents a gallon. Now when I go to the gas pump, I have to pay $3.50 or $3.40 a gallon. So it's gone up quite a bit. And a movie ticket was 70 cents. And a loaf of bread was 18 cents. A family could buy their groceries for a whole week for $10. I remember my mom used to go. We didn't even go to the supermarket. We used to have our groceries delivered to us. My mom would call at the grocery store and give her order on the phone and delivery boy would bring us our groceries. And then when I was 14, I got a job in that store, and I packed all the groceries and I delivered them to people. So, and guess how much a year of college cost? $198. So, eggs were 39 cents. And Oreo cookies were 39 cents for a bag. What were Oreo cookies? It would be really neat to go shopping then, huh? But people made a lot less money. And when I wanted to listen to music, I had to put my records on a record player. We had no iPods, no iPads, no cell phones. Actually, the first transistor radio came out in 1955. And you would have to dial, you put batteries in it, and you would have to dial your channel and kind of move around so you can get the music on the radio, because if you weren't in a right location, you wouldn't be able to hear your music, and it was very staticky too. So a lot of things happened in 1955, but you know what? In 50 years from now and 60 years from now, all of you will be going back and getting on your computer and figuring out what it was like when you were 10 years old, 9 years old. Things are going to be a lot different, so things keep changing, and all for the better too. We didn't have a car until I was probably 5 years old. And then we had one car. We didn't have two cars in our family. We had one car, and the dad took the car to work, so the only time we got to go out in the car was on a weekend. We would all pile in the car, and we would go to the beach or to the amusement park or on a picnic, and we wouldn't only have 3 or 4 people in the car. We'd all pile in 7 or 8 people, no seatbelts. We'd get in the car, we'd all pile in, go to the beach, spend the whole day, have a good time. And those were good times for us. And we only went out on Saturdays and Sundays, because during the week the dad had to take the car to work. And then when we had watched our TV shows, I only watched TV on Saturdays. Saturday morning I watched my cartoons, and sometimes at night we would watch TV together. The whole family would watch our shows. One of the shows on TV was Name That Tune, and they would play a little bit of a song, and you'd have to try to guess what the song was. And I had my little sister Lola, who was the best at that game. She would be able to recognize the song as soon as they played a few notes of it. And she always beat me out in that game. But, and do you have anybody have any questions? Yes. How or what? The what? The cars? Oh, they had all different colors. Not as many colors as now, but most people got black or white or silver. Yeah, and they were very big, actually. Big Cadillacs and Fords. Yeah. What color what? What colored car did I have? Black car. Our first car was a Buick. It was a black car. Yep. Rocky Point? Yes, I did. I lived in Rhode Island. He did? So your dad must have grew up in Rhode Island. Yeah. I think your dad was probably a lot younger than me, but I did go to Rocky Point. Yep. What's that?
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 2 sisters. One older and one younger. I was the middle. Do you have any other questions?
What were some of your favorite games to play outside with your friends or inside with your friends?
We played tic-tac-toe. We played, let's see, some of my favorite things that we played were, well, I used to play stickball with my friends outside, or when we went to a park. I didn't have a very big yard. In fact, I learned to ride my bike, my first bike, in my little yard, and I had just a little circle to go around in, because I lived in the city, and I didn't have a very big yard to play in. But some of the games I played, we played checkers, and hide and seek. I loved hide and seek. And I used to go roller skating. That was a big pastime for me. You go roller skating? Do you? Yep, I did that a lot. And I just played outside with my friends, with my dolls, my doll carriage, when I was your age. I don't know if you girls do that much. You mostly play with Barbie dolls? No? I bet you play with Legos, though. How about Mr. Potato Head? Does everybody have had a Mr. Potato Head at one time or another? Maybe you know where all the pieces are, and maybe you don't know where all the pieces are now.
Does anyone else have a question? Charles, did you have a question? Gavin?
How much money would a pet at the pet store, like a fish or something, cost?
Oh. I don't know. I never had goldfish. I wouldn't imagine they'd be very expensive. I did have a dog when I was little. Yeah?
How much did the dog cost?
Did the dog cost? I think somebody gave us the dog. I don't think we bought him. Right now, sometimes you can pay an awful lot of money for animals. But it's very nice to go to the dog, the animal rescue, and find a nice pet. You get a very nice pet.
What kind of dog was it?
My dog was, they called him Spitz dog. It was a little white fluffy dog with a white fluffy tail. Yep.
I actually did rescue a dog from the dog run.
You did? What kinds of dogs?
Golden
Those are very
It's a really good dog. It's already like trained.
Really?
Like they trained before.
Well,
We
very
call them
lucky.
fast and they can bring them to us. And they train them before. They train them to and stuff.
And that dog is very lucky that you got him. I'm sure you love him.
Trash, but he's a dog.
Yeah.
The dog was on his leg.
Oh, really? What kind of dog? Yeah. With a what? An international harvester? I had one.
My dad has
I had a red International Harvester, but I didn't have them until probably the 70s, but it was in 1959. Did it? Wow, I had a red one. That was the first truck I ever drove. And very nice. Only mine didn't stop very well, so I used to always start at the top of a hill, and I had to roll down and pop the clutch in order to start it. Yeah. Yep.
I got the dog Belle because it's not Thursday. But my mom got it from a breeder for my sister's birthday. So I got it.
Really? What kind of dog is that?
That's for their spaniel.
Oh, those are nice. What's his name?
Belle.
Now. Yep. What's your dog's name? Marcy. What is your, what do you? What?
The place where you lived where there were livestock?
No, actually, we did all our shopping in neighborhood stores. I lived on a busy street, and there was a little clothing store there, and a shoe store, 5 and 10 cent store. That's where we did our shopping. I didn't go to a mall until I was older. There were no malls. Yeah, the shopping was very different than what we have now. The houses, they were small. There were no, well, not in my neighborhood, there were no big houses like you see now in some neighborhoods. And I lived in a 3-tenement house. Oh, and another thing that I have to tell you about, we had a telephone, but we had a 3-party line. And when I wanted to make a telephone call, and in those days, you didn't pick up the phone and call your friends. You went outside and knocked on their door and called and asked them to go out. But the 3-party line was, if you wanted to make a phone call, sometimes you would pick up the phone and someone would be talking on the phone. So you'd put the receiver down and wait a little while, then pick it up again. And if they were on the phone too long, you would maybe interrupt them very nicely and say, do you mind if I use the phone just for a few minutes, and ask them to get off the phone? Please hang up so that I can make the call. But you had to be very nice, because you didn't even know who the person was on the other line, unless sometimes they would introduce themselves. But 3-party lines, sometimes you had to share your phone with them. Yep.
Where would you go to like ride a bike?
A bike? We had a store in downtown. I lived in Providence in downtown. There was a store that sold all those kinds of things. I think Benny's was around then. It might have been. Benny's has been around for a long time. Yep. What street did I live on? I lived on Atwins Avenue, which is right on Federal Hill. It's a very popular place right now. It was very nice when I was living there. There were push carts. Actually, our fruits and vegetables we bought from a push cart. And then there was another store across the street from us where we would go and buy our chickens. So it was very different shopping in those days. And our milk was delivered by the milkman. So things were very different. And I had fun. My school was right down the street. I walked to school. Church was right down the street. When I wanted to go into the city, I took a bus. So we had fun. A lot of different things. We didn't have a washing machine. We used a scrub guard to wash our clothes. Yes, Amanda? What's that? What did I did the same thing you do. I learned to read. I learned cursive. That's what kids are learning right now, right? And I love to read. And I hope you all love to. That's the way you learn. Yep.
What type of pest control do you have? What did you have mice
I don't think we had any pest control.
so you just have to buy traps?
Yeah, we had mouse traps. Yeah, and living in the city, I'm sure there were mice around. I didn't see them. Maybe my parents caught them and put them away before I saw them.
Mrs. Sullivan, thank you very much. We very much appreciate you coming in this morning.
Okay, I
Can you please
really
say thank you?
enjoyed this. You asked a lot of good questions.
So much. We appreciate it.
And I have a bookmark for all of you kids, and I hope you kids read over the summer.
How many people will be reading over the summer?
Okay.
There we go.
So there you have a bookmark.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.
Bye, Anna.